Good morning and welcome to the Oasis Center for Spiritual Living, where we come together as one, providing spiritual tools for daily living. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Reverend Tucker. I'm the senior minister here at the Oasis, and I have this wonderful team that God has provided me to be able to do this. So let me start with my faithful assistant, Faith, who has been my assistant basically since she was, I don't know, I always say since the day she was born, but technically she was her dad's assistant. He worked the soundboard, and she was about 3 weeks old when she came to town, came to church. Oh, I can't laugh; it hurts. Came to church, and he would hold her in one hand and work the soundboard in the other hand. And then when she was able to crawl, she became my assistant because she crawled up onto the stage like she belonged there, and so we left her there. I had a portable mic so I could step over her, and she acted like she belonged up there, so I left her. And as she grew up in the church, and then she was old enough, she and her sister, to do the affirmation cards we used to do every week, kind of an usher duty. And her dad, she lives 6 blocks from my house, and her dad was a tow truck driver, and every time he would go on an out-of-town tow, he would drop Faith and Hannah off at my house, and I put them to work. I always have projects going on at my house, always. So I got to see how Faith worked. And when she was 14 and a half, she announced that she wanted a real job, and I had opened an ozone business. So I said, "Oh, come work for me." And literally out of the 3 assistants I've had, she was the best. And then when we went live for the pandemic, I said, "Well, we're going to go live. Do you want to be my ministerial assistant?" And she said, "Yes." So you will notice that behind the scenes, Faith does everything. And instead of it, like in The Wizard of Oz, when you pull back the curtain, you find an old man. When you pull back the curtain here, you find Faith, right?
Not pretty.
And oh God, it hurts to laugh. I'm sorry. I have broken my back. I have 2 thoracic vertebrae that have compression fractures in them. So if it looks like I'm in a fair amount of pain, I am. Anyway, and so when you say hi, hello, good morning, which is how we like you to greet us, since in a facility I can look out and see the shining faces beaming back at me, and here I get a number. I don't even get names. I really have no idea who the audience is. We like it when you say hi, hello, or good morning. And Faith will be the one answering you as me. She knows me better than I know myself, so usually she's spot on. I think there's only been twice in 4 years, or almost 5 years, that I have had to add something. And so also she is our soloist. And she is singing The Altar of Love, by Karen Drucker. I knew it would come to me eventually. I just have to take time these days. And so thank you for being here and helping so much. We couldn't do this without you, so I love you. All right, and then there's my partner in crime, the wise and powerful Oz. He was my first baby practitioner, meaning he took all of his training with me, except for one class he took at Mile High. And after he became a licensed practitioner, he became the board president of our church. And so he was our board president, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. I don't remember exactly how long, until he decided he needed to move to Florida. And so we lost the ability to have him in our service. And so when we went live for the pandemic, I said, "Hey, would you be willing to be our practitioner of the day?" Little did he know that that was going to be 5 years of every Sunday. We always thought we'd have another practitioner that'd be able to fill in here and there, but that didn't manifest. So pretty much Oz has been that for 5 years every Sunday. Our practitioner of the day does the invocation, the benediction, and is available at the end for our 1-minute miracle, which I will talk a little bit about later on. So thank you for doing this, Oz. You have no idea how much I appreciate you, because we couldn't do this without you. Love you. All right. And then I always like to mention our adjunct music team, because we obviously couldn't have a church service without music, or with music without them. First is Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver, who was the first to ask us to do her music. And the second is Karen Drucker, who gifted us with her entire collection of music, which at that time was 20 CDs. And she gave us karaoke files and songbooks, so we'd have the lyrics and all of that. So we're really, really happy to have these two ladies providing music so that we can do a more traditional type of Sunday service instead of just listening to me talk for an hour. And then also I like to just put a shout out to Albertina Giuffre, who was our soloist for many, many years, since like 2000, and stepped away to do some things in her personal life that needed to be done. And she only joins us now in what she calls the crying season, which is Mother's Day, Father's Day, and Memorial Day, and then again at Christmas. So better known as Tina. But we couldn't do what we do without all of this team. So I always like to acknowledge that. There is a watch party button so that you can click on that and invite all your friends, give them an opportunity to see what kind of Sunday service they can expect. And you can chat amongst yourselves because it's a private chat. You don't bother anybody and answer any questions that they may have. So click on that watch party button and invite all your friends. All right. I'd like to invite you now to close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Allow the service to uplift and inspire you as we move into our centering song.
Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
The presence of God. Even when the mic is off, God is present. For God is present in all things, as all things, in all places, for all times. For God is what we conceive of the entire universe rolled up into one and still enfolded and resting in that one greater presence that manifests and creates all things in you at every moment. From the quantum level to the intergalactic level, God's presence is one, unified, whole, and complete in all things, in all possible things, all probable universes, all contained within that one greater body that we call God. And therefore, God must be right here, right now, where you are, where I am, where each of us spends our lives, is within that greater being that we know and love as God. And I know that God's presence is manifest throughout our service now and for the future. That whenever this is heard, that same presence is still the one presence of God. And knowing that we are resting in the belly of God, I know that it is good and very good, and I give thanks for the blessings that unfold. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you so much, Oz. He's in the car driving. Kudos to him for being able to do the invocation and still focus on the road there. All right. This next song is one that Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver wrote during her practitioner training. And it's a great reminder for us to remember that we are all one, that we are connected by it, through it, as it.
We are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it. I hear it and know it, my being. Spirit is all I am seeing. For God is all there is. Grateful am I to be living, open to what I have seen, honoring what I've been given, sharing now what I believe. I remember the oneness around me. I surrender to infinite light, knowing the love that's surrounding me is within me by day and night. And we are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it. Yes, we are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it.
Yes, we are all one in it. I love the reminders of being connected to all of life. And Karen Ducker and Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver do that very, very well. All right. If you are just joining us, say hi, hello, good morning, however you'd like to greet us. When we're in a facility, I can look out and see the shining faces beaming back at me. Here I get a number I don't even know. Thank you, Tony, for sending us hearts. And Cindy for giving us a thumbs up, so I know you're here. I'm so glad to see all of that. But if you will say hello, good morning, however you want to greet us, Faith will answer you as me. Just know that I know that you're here. All right. If you like something that you hear, please use the thumbs up button. If you love something, send us hearts, because we love to get love. And if something strikes you as very, very powerful, by all means use that wow button. I'm sorry, my hearts are not very good because I have to prop myself up on the one arm here. But anyway, make sure that you let us know, because that feedback is very important to me. So I know when I'm on track, right? All right. Without further ado, we have Faith singing Altar of Love by Karen Drucker.
Lay it down, set it free, let my heart rest and let it be. Lay it down, set it free, lay it down on the altar of love. I was walking through the season of dark and lonely change, where the world was on my shoulders and my faith was rearranged. I knew I'd never be given more than I could bear. But Spirit reassures me there was an answer to my prayer. If I lay it down, set it free. Let my heart rest and let it be. Lay it down, set it free. Lay it down on the altar of love. Every single moment I am left with the choice to stay in separation or listen to that voice that beckons me to open and to be grateful for every day. It simply reminds me there can be another way. If I lay it down, set it free, let my heart rest, and let it be. Lay it down, set it free, lay it down on the altar of love. Love is all there is. Love is all there is. Love will lead the way. Lay it down, set it free. Let my heart rest and let it be. Lay it down, set it all free. Oh, lay it down on the altar of love. Lay it down, set it free. Let my heart rest and let it be. Lay it down, set it all free. Lay it down on the altar of love. Lay it down on the altar of love. Oh, lay it down. I'm gonna lay it down on the altar of love.
Thank you so much, Faith. That's a perfect song for today.
Yeah.
I told her she had her choice of what she wanted to sing the whole month of love.
So be ready, you guys.
Which CD is that off of?
All About Love.
All About Love. That's a really good CD too. We always pump the Songs of Spirit. You know, she has 4 CDs that are chants of the Songs of Spirit, but that's a really good one too. So thank you very much. Good setup for today. So in the month of February, we like to do the entire month of love, and we take different topics of love and try to do those. And God's love is really unconditional love. So today we're going to talk about love of God and self. Most of us are not really familiar with unconditional love because most of our lives we've been pre-programmed with a conditional bias. If you do this, I'll love you more. If you do that, I won't love you quite as much. And so, you know, we don't actually say that, but that's pretty much what our actions imply. And so I like to talk about the unconditional love of God because we get mixed up, because we don't believe in a wise judge in the sky. So there's not someone who is sitting up in the sky who is judging us and doesn't rescue us. It's not like you call, you know, we say we don't believe in a 911 God. Like you call, hey, God, I'm in trouble. Come rescue me. Okay, let me put my running shoes on. I'll be right down, right? We don't believe in that kind of God. We believe in a God that resides within us, around us, through us, all around us and flows right through us like watermarks on a page, where we give outline to the form of it, but it doesn't impede the flow of God through us, right? And so when we're talking about the love of God and the love of self, what we're basically saying is that God lives within us, so what is there not to love, right? I know we can look in the mirror and see all of the things that are flaws. We can look at our lives and say, I'm not lovable because this, that, or the other thing. We can always do that. But the truth is that if we can focus on the unconditional love of God, we know that we're loved no matter what, right? We were born with free will. And so we are free to learn the lessons that we need to learn. And God doesn't step in and prevent us from learning those lessons, right? I loved my sister so much because she taught me a lot. When I would take care of her kids, I was always afraid they would do something and get hurt. And she said to me one time, you have to let kids burn their hands on the stove so they learn when they're adults not to place their hand directly on the stove. And, I lightened up a little bit. I still don't like to watch when they're doing things that are dangerous. And it probably saved me when Vincent started bull riding and bullfighting, because I could allow him to do that without panicking, right? After 70 concussions and the loss of half of his face, he has 11 whatever the word is, titanium plates in his face, and burst his spleen and had to have an emergency splenectomy. Through all of that, I was able to kind of step back and not let myself get into a panic state. And I think that's because Joey taught me that. But really, truly, what it means is that we have to provide free will for other people if we want free will for ourselves. That's really the gist of it all. But God's love is totally unconditional, meaning that God loves us no matter who we are. It doesn't matter if we are white, black, purple, green, yellow, red. And it doesn't matter what our orientation is, whether we're male or female or other. It doesn't matter whether we love someone of the same sex or not. It doesn't matter any of that. It doesn't matter because God's love is absolutely unconditional. And what that means is that God loves us no matter what. We don't have to earn that love because it's given to us automatically the day we are conceived. We don't have to be afraid of doing something because God won't love us. I know when I was raised in the Jewish synagogue, I went to Hebrew school classes and was told that God favored boys over girls. And that was a really hard thing to do as a girl, thinking that, oh, well, God doesn't love me as much. There are people out there who didn't know their fathers, who might feel like they don't deserve love because their father wasn't around, wouldn't stick around. There are people out there whose mothers didn't have a handbook on how to raise us and didn't give us the love that we felt like we needed it in the way that we felt like we needed it. They were processing through their own stuff at the time that they were raising us. And so there's all these feelings that lead to our feelings of not worthy or not good enough, or however you want to say that. But really, truly, if you believe that God is within you, what is not to love, right? And so I had a mentor minister, Dr. Fred Bode, who used to say that there's no such thing as unconditional love. He did agree that God's love was unconditional, but he said we would never be able to do it. So the best thing that we were able to come up with is that we practice unconditional love as if we could achieve it at some point. And we strive for that unconditional love of self and others. Okay. So I found this definition of unconditional love that I just love. And it says, it's a concept that means showing love towards someone regardless of his or her actions or beliefs. It's a concept comparable to true love. It's a term which is more frequently used to describe love between lovers. By contrast, unconditional love is frequently used to describe love between family members, comrades in arms, and between others in highly committed relationships. It has also been used in a religious context to describe God's love for mankind. In conditional love, love is earned on the basis of conscious or unconscious conditions being met by the lover. Whereas an unconditional love is given freely to the loved one no matter what. Conditional love requires some kind of finite exchange, whereas unconditional love is seen as infinite and measureless. Unconditional love should not be, hang on, I can kind of move my cursor here. Unconditional love should not be mistaken with unconditional dedication. Unconditional dedication refers to an act of the will, irrespective of feelings. E.g., a person may consider a person they have a duty to stay with. Unconditional love is an act of the feelings irrespective of it all. Okay. Now, Harold W. Becker, who's the author and founder of the Love Foundation, defines unconditional love as an unlimited way of being from his book of the same title. Becker goes on to say that we are without our limit to our thoughts and feelings in life and can create any reality we choose to focus our attention on. The qualities of love are endless and the expressions are infinite. The power of unconditional love is within each one of us. Unconditional love of self is the concept of loving yourself regardless of external conditions. This includes not denying yourself your feelings in favor of others. Ultimately, in this action, a person will have to move away from others who do not love them without condition or teach them to love in that way. This idea could be considered imperative to increasing the amount of love one feels if a person is looking outside themselves for love. They may never find unconditional love or even enough love to be happy. Unconditional love itself is considered the foundation for unconditional love. Because of this, once a person is able to love themselves without condition, they will be able to love others without condition. Some gurus and teachers would describe this as an overflow effect, as if the person is overflowing with love, or about the unconditional love of self is most often used in conjunction with self-acceptance. Whoops. As a way to bring the self to a place of well-being and self-understanding for many people. This is not easy to understand, probably because people have used the term to demand more love from a person than possible for that person to give. And when the person in demand was unable to fill the expectations of the other, we were accused of not loving without condition. This is a false definition that would actually be more synonymous with guilt or a guilt trip. It is difficult or impossible to define unconditional self-love or unconditional love. When people put expectations on it, they can ultimately end up in disappointment. So I always say, in other words, God's love for a person is irrespective of that person's love for God. It is irrespective of how we act, what we do, what we say. God loves us no matter what. There's no race, creed, color, orientation. There's no preference for any of that in God's love. God's love is the same for everybody, no matter what. And we say what we think, it's always there. Now, the beauty of that is, I have self-will, which means I get to make my own choices, and I know that I'm always loved. On the other side of that, what people find to be less than probably warm and fuzzy, is that God isn't going to be like a mom or dad that swoops us up when we're in trouble. And some people find that to be a little cold. I don't personally. I think of it as much better to know that I'm loved no matter what mistakes I make. And that if I fall down and scrape my knee, I have the power within me to pick myself up and know that love is there, whether I'm on the floor or I'm walking around. And so when I talk about God's love, that's what I'm talking about. The unconditional love that says it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. I love you anyway. And I think that as a practice, we can learn to do that. I don't know that we'll ever be able to 100% do that. I think the only person that may have accomplished that was Jesus himself. So in this particular part of February, I like to say that it's what we're practicing, that we're working towards being that vessel through which God's unconditional love moves through us to another person. I used to have this practitioner in my church who was working with someone that she didn't like at all. And I kept saying to her, just love her, just love her, just love her. And I had an aha in a meditation where I realized that it's not her loving this person, but it's God loving this person through her. And so I approached her with that, and she was like, oh, I can do that. And so she began to allow the love to flow through her to this other person. And now the last time I talked to her, they had a really good working relationship. She'll never like her, I don't think. She'll never love her the way you love your friends, but she was able to allow God's love to flow through her to this other person. And because of that, they were able to have a good relationship. I have this visual that I like to use, and I had a practitioner from another church tell me that it sounded like I believe God is outside of us. But that's not really what I think. I think that God is everywhere present, through all things, through all people, through everything. And so I would picture God's love coming in a funnel through my crown chakra and moving down into my heart chakra from where it moved out. And that's not saying that God is out there somewhere. It's just saying that I can funnel that, I can channel that love of God to other people, right? And I can use that to channel love for myself. And that is really what I think we're here for. I think that that's what love is all about. And anything that seems to contradict that, we lay down on the altar of love. That's why that was a perfect song for this topic, because when I know that God's love is unconditional, and I can lay everything else down on the altar of love and let God's love take care of it, then I am free to be able to live a life that is more joyful and more peaceful for myself. For instance, I don't know how often this happens to you, but I drive a scooter when I'm in the grocery store because of my legs. Now it's because of my back, but whatever. And so sometimes during the holidays, for example, I do self-checkout, and the line is clear through the aisle all the way to the end of the aisle. And because I'm in a scooter, a lot of people like jump in front of me, whatever. And so I started to, instead of focusing on that, I started to focus on the love of God and just opening myself up to God's love and letting it flow out from me. And it was interesting because all of a sudden I'd have like 1 or 2 items and people would have like 50 items, and all of a sudden people would say, oh, you go ahead of me, you go ahead of me, you go ahead of me. Instead of 50 people in front of me, all of a sudden I'm at the head of the line. And I realized that when I was focused on the love of God and allowing that to flow out for me, not that I'm manipulating anybody, but it gave them the freedom to be able to see me and see what's going on, right? People are always, they have free will, so I can't manipulate them to do things for me. I just thought it was interesting that it had that effect. And when people cut you off in traffic is another perfect situation where you can focus on the love of God, the unconditional love of God, and let it flow from you instead of focusing on what just happened, right? Because when we get angry and we get frustrated and we get in fear, what we're doing is we're cutting off that flow of God through us, right? We're limiting its ability to move through us. Because I believe, really, that we are here to be agents of God's love, that's the only reason we're on the planet. And so while I'm focused on the love of God, the unconditional love of God, to the exclusion of all these other things that happen, I know that I provide a pathway through which God can people can experience God's love that way. And that's really what I'm here for. So it doesn't mean that I have to like your actions. It doesn't mean that I have to like you for all of that. It only means that I have to open myself to that love of God and focus my attention there. and allow that to move through me to other people, right? And while I'm doing that, I'm expressing that love of God, that unconditional love of God to myself as well, right? Anytime that I start to think that I'm not worthy of love, I begin to focus on God's unconditional love. That means that I don't have to earn it. I don't have to be afraid of it being taken away. I only have to remember that what I'm made of is God's stuff. And if I'm made of God's stuff, I can't escape God. And so because of that, the unconditional love of God is free to flow through me. And I can remember that there's nothing to not love, right? If what I'm made of is God's stuff, then what am I not loving, right? I have a love for God. And so I can love myself. I can learn to love myself. I want to, at this point, just point out that it doesn't matter which issue you're working on. It's the same. If you're working on health, for example, like right now, I have 2 fractures in my vertebrae. If I focus on that, if I allow myself to just stay in bed and not do anything until it takes 8 to 12 weeks to heal this. So they want me on bed rest. So, but I can't live my life in bed. I can't just lay there and do nothing, right? I'm doing what I'm not supposed to. I'm not doing what I'm not supposed to do. Like I'm not supposed to bend, although I do bend down to feed the dogs. I'm not twisting. I'm not lifting anything over 5 pounds. But given those rules, I can live with that as long as I have the ability to still come here and speak my truth. As long as I can still, buddy, don't do that. As long as I'm talking to a bird, by the way, buddy, stop it. As long as I am focused on the love of God, or even the health of God for that matter, if I'm made of God's stuff, then there's a blueprint of health that exists within me. If I'm focused on that instead of on, oh, this hurts so bad, I can't do this, or whatever else happens, then I am experiencing a better life than what I'm experiencing, was experiencing the last couple of weeks, not knowing that my vertebrae were broken. And so, it works whether it's love or health or finances. If I'm focused on I can't pay that bill, I need to focus instead on the idea that there are no limitations in God and God is my source. Your job is not your source. Your retirement is not your source. Your bank account is not your source. God is your source and supply. And there are infinite pathways through which God can deliver your financial good. Okay. So these principles work regardless of what issue you're talking about. And I have a quote from Joel Goldsmith that I really love. There's no room in spiritual living for persecution, hatred, judgment, or condemnation of any person or group of people. It is not only inconsistent, but hypocritical to talk about the Christ in our great law and our great love for God in one breath, and in the next breath, speak disparagingly of a neighbor who is of a different race, creed, nationality, political affiliation, or economic status. One cannot be the child of God as long as he persecutes or hates anyone or anything, but only as he lives in a consciousness of no judgment or condemnation. The revelation of the one self enables us to see that God is our selfhood, and that anything of an erroneous or negative nature which emanates from any individual has power only in the degree that we ourselves give it power. So it is that whatever has good or evil we do unto others, we do unto the Christ of our own being, inasmuch as you have done it unto me. In that realization, we shall see that this is the truth about all men and women, and that he didn't say that, I'm editorializing, and that the only road to a successful and satisfying life is to understand our neighbor to be ourselves. We create our own good and we create our own evil. God does not do either. God is a principle of love. If we are at one with that principle, then we bring good into our experience. But if we are not at one with that principle, we bring evil into our experience. Whatever is flowing out from our consciousness, that which is going forward in secret, is being shown to the world in an outward manifestation. So again, it goes back to the song that we sing every week. We are all one. In other words, there is no, in a world where we believe God is in and through all, in a world where we believe we are all one, meaning we are connected by it, through it, as it, God. In that world, anything that we hold against another person comes back to us. And I was watching this lady on, I think it was a Facebook reel, and she actually was, it was a really good demonstration. She had, a circle for yourself, and then she had, X's and people who cut you off in traffic, and she had all these things that flowed outward. And in our anger, frustration, or judgment, she showed how it just comes right back to you. That is the law of cause and effect in action, right? So it doesn't mean, when we look at karma, for example, we call that the law of cause and effect. And if I am generating negative feelings toward another human being or another animal or another tree or another house or anything like that, if I'm projecting negative emotions toward that, then what I'm doing is I'm setting it up for it to just boomerang back at me. And so letting go of these judgments and letting go of the frustrations and letting go of all anger, we have to forgive everyone. And the thing about that is forgiveness doesn't do anything for them. All it does is free us up so that we can more handily experience the love of God, the unconditional love of God. And so anytime we have bad intentions towards someone else, remember that we have just inflicted that upon ourselves, because we are all one. We are connected by it, through it, as it. There's no such thing as an other, okay? There is only one God, one life, one being, one infinite essence of God. And we are one in it, right? So this week, I'd like you to practice remembering, first of all, that these others, so-called others, are really reflections of us. I remember, we're mirrors for each other, but we don't go around telling people we're mirrors for each other, because you can't hear the message when you do that. I had this lady in my congregation one time. Hang on a second. I had a lady in my congregation one time who used to be an English professor. And every time I would step off the podium, she would tell me how bad my grammar was. And at first I'd get kind of irritated at her. And then I realized, that doesn't do any good. She knows what she knows, and I don't have an English degree. So, she's probably right. And so I would just say, thank you for sharing. And then I would go home and process through it. But here's the thing. Whenever someone triggers us like that, it is because we either believe that they are right about us, or we are afraid they're right about us. What happened to me was on self-reflection, I realized that I didn't feel like I had the right to be up there talking. Even though I'd gone to school for it, even though I'd had all these experiences that made me worthy of being up there, I still had a sense of unworthiness about it. As I worked through all of that, her comments became less and less. And until they finally petered out completely. She stayed in the congregation, but she no longer felt the need to school me about my grammar. And what I realized is that when I'm speaking from the heart, the last thing I should be worried about is grammar. Because when I speak from the heart, people hear what they need to hear. And so self-love is all about accepting yourself and recognizing your worthiness already. You see, like we don't have to earn God's love. We don't have to earn our right to be who we are. And so I work through that. So I suggest this week that if someone triggers you, they're being a mirror for you, and you can just take a look at what you believe about yourself. Are you believing that they're right? Are you afraid that they might be right? Are you allowing them to have the power to determine whether you have the right to do what you do? Take a look at all of that stuff this week, because truly, love of God and love of self are really the same thing. And until we can accept ourselves, until we can recognize the God within us, until we can recognize that the unconditional love that we seek from others is already there with God being within us, until we can recognize all of that, it's very difficult for us to feel the love that is there for us. So will you do that this week? Will you focus your attention on the love of God to enact a different reality for yourself? One where you recognize the perfection that you are, maybe not the physical perfection, but the inner perfection, that blueprint of God that is our reality. Let's have a prayer. Right now, I just focus my attention on the infinite power, the infinite presence, the infinite life of God. One power, one presence, one love, one life. And that is where I find myself, in the midst of God. My very being, it is who and what I am, and every thought, every action, every deed is guided and led by the ancient wisdom of the ages that is God within us. God flowing through us. And so I know the same truth to be so for this team that God has gifted me with to manage these services. For Faith and Tina and Karen and Elaine and Oz. For we are one in it. And that same ancient wisdom of the ages that flows through all guides and leads us to that place of knowingness of what's ours to do. I know that same truth to be so for everyone who is listening to this, whether that be in real time or later on. For we are all one in it. We are all one as it. That one flows through us equally, no matter who we are. And so I know that an ancient wisdom and knowledge of the universe, God's wisdom and God's information, flows through all equally. And because of that, we are all guided and led by it. Mitakuya, we are all one. All my brethren, we are related. And so I bless this coming week with so many opportunities to focus our attention on the God within us, the unconditional love of God that guides us and leads us and takes us into an altered reality that is more joyful, more peaceful, more loving. I bless us as we those opportunities and allow God to flow through us. We are vessels through which that love comes and flows out. And so in this moment, I bless every name that is in the ministry of prayer today, because I do know that whatever condition they are experiencing, God is the answer. That flow of God's wisdom and life and love is always the answer. So I pull back the veil and I reveal that truth here and now. As I claim this good in their names and call it good and very good. My heart fills with gratitude to know that this is so. To be of service in this way. And so I just let it be. And so it is. Amen.
Sorry, guys, my actual remote just decided that the batteries weren't going to work, so had to connect to Bluetooth. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are, and all you do is a blessing to the world.
Thank you, Faith. I got to tell you a funny story about this. So, we've been doing that song all this time, right?
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, I think it was, did a copyright violation on it. So I wrote back and said, we have permission to do all of her stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm fighting it. So we'll see.
Oh,
It's crazy. Yeah, it's just crazy. I don't know. I don't understand it, but whatever. Thank you. All right, now is our opportunity to receive your gifts, tithes, and offerings, and your opportunity to share your gratitude for that which you have already received in the physical realm, or perhaps that which you have created in the mind of God, but not yet experienced in the physical realm. In a moment, Chica, get out of there. In a moment, I will have you go with me to www.oasiscsl.org. And about 2/3 down the page is our offering affirmation. And then underneath that is Contribute Now button. So let me just say something real quickly about contributions to our organization. When we were in a facility, we had rent and utilities and, all the things that come with a facility. Here, we don't have those. What we have is I pay Faith for all the work that she does. And then we market to the global world because our vision is a healed world. And our mission to get there is healing the world one person at a time. And unfortunately, that costs money. We have to market. And so when you contribute, what you're doing is you are allowing us to get to our vision through our mission. So go with me now, whether it's in real time or later on, to www.oasiscsl.org and say this offering affirmation with me. This perfect gift is spirit and form, circulating and blessing all it touches. Freely I give and joyously I receive. And so it is. All right, hit that Contribute Now button and help us with our mission to get to our vision. All right. We have this wonderful team of licensed practitioners who serve our church. We have practitioners from coast to coast who serve our church in 3 different ways. One is that they pray every day for a week on any prayer requests we receive. So if you would like prayer for something, put it in the comments section. If you don't want it to be public, DM Faith, and she will make sure our God Squad gets it. We call our licensed practitioners the God Squad because I have this image of them marching in and taking charge. We've been calling them the God Squad since like 1998. Anyway, excuse me. So if you don't want it to be public, you can obviously DM Faith, and she'll make sure that the God Squad gets the prayer request. And they will pray every day on that for a week. The second way licensed practitioners serve our church is they are available by appointment for a fee for spiritual guidance. Now, you will reach out to, at this point, Oz, and tell him you would like a session for spiritual guidance. And he'll let you know how to pay for that. I don't get involved because practitioners have their own businesses. So they determine what they're going to use for a payment portal. Some use Venmo, Cash App, Wise, PayPal, Zelle. There's another one, an international one. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, reach out to Oz. Let him know that you would like a session for spiritual guidance, and he will let you know how to pay for that. And then he will video chat you at the appointed time. All right. And then the third thing is our 1 minute miracle, which he's available for. And our practitioners serve our church by being the practitioner of the day, which is Oz, for invocation, benediction, and this 1 minute miracle. And it's not a time for counseling, but it is a time where you can share whatever challenge you're experiencing, and he will stop, drop, and pray with you right then and there. So take advantage of these loving services that our practitioners, or Oz, is providing at this time, because it's so powerful. I use the services of practitioners all the time, because they can know the truth until I can know the truth for myself. Because like when I'm in pain like this, I can't know the truth for myself right now. So practitioners are helping me with that. All right, so let's see. The rest of this is Brooks and Bailey. Brooks and Bailey is a couple of ladies who have a jewelry line. And they have all kinds of jewelry, but I always specifically mention the mala beads. And this is because, let me grab my mala beads. Okay. This is because the Buddhists and Hindus use it for their chants. So they move one bead at a time as they do their chant. And I think, because I suggest that you do 100 affirmations a day, this is a great way to do that. It's 108 beads on a necklace, 54 beads on a bracelet. So you would use the bracelet twice. This particular one is amethyst. It's $60, but they have gemstones that are $30 and up on the necklaces. And I believe, if I'm not making this up, that the bracelets are $15 to $20. They might be $20 to $25. I'm not sure. But anyway, definitely check this out. All proceeds go to Rocky Mountain Lab Rescue, which is a really worthy cause. And you can reach them at brooksandbailey0307@gmail, or they have a Facebook page. And I always try, if they're going to be at an event and have a booth, I always try to share that so you can go down and meet them in person and see what all they have to offer. So definitely. All right. And then we always have you go to Reverend Fairy Lane Silver's website and check out all of the music that she has available. Her website, for some reason, she isn't able to modify, so she can't tell anybody how to pay for anything. She travels around the country singing and playing guitar, but she carries the CDs in her trunk of her car. So you email her, tell her you want a specific CD. She'll tell you how to pay for it, and then she'll send it out right away. She's so good at that. The other one is Karen Drucker, who her website, you can purchase it by the song, by the CD, by the songbook, by the karaoke file. Her website works, so you can pay for it right then and there. They make wonderful gifts, by the way. We always recommend the Songs of Spirit series, but like today's comes from All About Love. Is that what it's called? Yeah. And so, she has CDs where there's songs. Lighten Up is one of them. I love Lighten Up. That's one of my favorites. But anyway, definitely check these ladies out. We love to support those who support us. And like I said, Karen Drucker gifted us with her entire collection in 2020. So definitely check these ladies out. Then go to our website, www.oasiscsl.org. I know it's hopelessly out of date. Just one more thing to add to it now. Now that I've broken my back, I I am not going to be able to update it again still. I don't know what's going on with this. I've been trying to update it ever since my sister died 2 years ago, but things just keep getting in the way. So know that you can go to YouTube for video sermons and SoundCloud for audio sermons under S. Tucker. So you can get that. But on our website, you can also see pictures of events that we've had at the church that show you who your spiritual community is. So, and all that being said, I'm going to turn this over to Oz right now.
And I know right here, right now, that God's presence is in all things, in each of us, now and in the future and throughout the week. I go forth into God's presence, knowing that blessings are all around and that it is all good and very good. And I give thanks that it is so. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Oz. So thank you for being here. I know there's 1,000 things you could be doing on a Sunday morning. We are so blessed that you were here with us. And I want to invite you to come back every Sunday, but particularly next Sunday at 10:30 a.m. USA time. We'd love to have you there. We're going to continue to talk about the different forms of love. And I know you're going to enjoy it. So please come back next week. We love you. Until then, stay safe and see ya.